All right, so everybody that's listening, if you're listening to us as a first timer, thanks so much. Subscribe, like, share, Rumble, uh, Odyssey, YouTube. Hopefully, God willing, we get that up there. uh, and all the other podcasting sites, Spotify, the list goes on and on. Thanks so much. If you're listening to us on one of the radio shows, we appreciate that. Hopefully, we can get that up there as well. This is a very tragic story about Grace Schara. She was had an issue with the COVID-19, and she was murdered. To be honest, I mean, we're being blatantly honest on this program. Scott Schara, her dad, has been on this program once before. We will have him on multiple times as the years go on. If you want to find more about Grace, her story in depth, it's ouramazinggrace.net. Again, ouramazinggrace.net. Scott does have a Rumble show, which I hope that people subscribe to, like the show, share the show. It is Deprogramming with Grace's Dad. Again, Deprogramming with Grace's Dad. Scott, thanks so much for putting up with all that at the beginning of the program. And I'm so happy you always come on the program.
Well, thanks for having me, Rob. I had another I was on another show yesterday and it was the almost identical introduction, but let me explain. Because if people type in the website address you gave, they're probably going to get it wrong because of your accent. I know you don't realize you have an accent, but you said "Our Amazing Grace." So then people would type in the letter R, Amazing Grace,
Right,
but it's
true.
Our Amazing Grace. Oh, you are Amazing Grace. So
That's true. That's true. Hey, listen, that's something that I've been down in Florida and I just can't snap out of is that accent. But you know what, Scott? We're going to keep that as authenticity for me. And I'm going to keep running with the ball there because some people don't have accents. Some people, like the Midwest, like you're over in Wisconsin. I've been to Oshkosh. I've been to Madison. I've been to Illinois, Chicago, Northbrook, Deerfield, all around that area too. And they have a little bit of a different accent with words. But we love that here on the program, Scott, because it shows the authenticity of yourself and me. But I agree with you. Some of my words do sound a little fishy at times.
I think it's fun. I like the if I can poke, we can poke fun at each other.
Right.
It makes for a good show. So
Right. Well, listen, Scott, like I said, I love having you on, and we're going to have you on again to tell Grace's story, to recap that. And then, as we talked about before the show even started, you do have a lot of thoughts and you've went, pretty in depth on a lot of other issues surrounding the country, surrounding the world. We won't get to that today, but I definitely do want to have you on again to really dive deep into this because everybody that listens to this knows, Scott, I used to be very far to the left, a Bernie Sanders supporter. Now I'm more center right, and I more or so critically think for myself, which we all lost for the most part in 2020 and 2021. Critical thinking caps were not on, they weren't charged, they were dead. But now a lot of people are open and thinking critically now. Thank God for that. But let's kick this around, Scott. Talk about Grace in general before even the COVID fiasco started.
well, yeah, that's actually my favorite topic. And since you mentioned, you were far left before, I would have said I was far right before, and
Right,
so I've completely checked out of it. I'm not.
right.
I think politics is a psyop.
Agreed.
COVID was a psyop. So you mentioned Grace died of COVID or was during COVID. That presumes COVID was real, which it wasn't. It
True.
was a psyop to convince us that we needed this bioweapon to save us. We always have to have the Hegelian dialectic going on: problem, COVID, reaction, fear, solution, bioweapon. I mean, this is insanity, but we fall for it every time because we're sinful beings and we want safety, security, and comfort. So whoever promises that to us, we just kind of fall in line with.
Well,
And
even 9/11, Scott, same
9/11,
sort of deal.
same exact thing. Yeah. So it just keeps going on over and over and over because that model works: problem, reaction, solution. But then when you see it that they're using that model as in advance. So that's a problem solving technique in real life. You know, your toilet doesn't flush, that's a problem. Your reaction is, okay, well, I got to look under the tank. I got to, I got to figure it out. So then you develop a solution. So there's nothing wrong with that. But when they use it for evil and they premeditate it, that's what's going on. So, 9/11 was premeditated, COVID was premeditated, and it was all designed for evil. And there's a lot more than that. But about
Sure.
Grace, our little staker, oh my gosh, she was a gift from God. She was born on September 22nd, 2002.
Oh,
She
wow.
was conceived 9 months earlier. So you want to know how
Wow.
that happened, Rob? You need
Yeah,
a
tell us,
biology
please.
biology lesson or no?
Yeah, please go
Okay,
in depth.
so how that happened, my wife Cindy and I were 39 years old, and we decided we already had 2.1 kids, 1.7 dogs, no cats, chasing the American dream. And we decided to turn the baby department over to God. So when we did that,
Yeah.
5 minutes later, Fertile Myrtle was pregnant. And then 9 months later, God blessed us with our Down syndrome daughter, Grace. And Down syndrome is an absolute gift from God for those of you who you think it's a disability and they want you to abort these
Yeah, that's
babies.
disgusting.
That's not right. 90% of Down syndrome babies are murdered in the womb. The 10% that make it, there's an active attempt to cull them. Grace lost her life in that active attempt to cull Down syndrome people. So it wasn't COVID that killed Grace. However, COVID did get me to take her to the hospital because of fear. My fear, I wasn't trusting God, and ultimately, that fear, 7 days after I checked Grace into the hospital, led to her death. Grace, as a person, she was 19 years old when she died. So from 0 to 19, what happened? Well, the 0 to 2, dads aren't really involved that much, but one, more, I was just the typical dad. I don't like changing diapers, all that, obviously I can't breastfeed. But then, after that
Well,
time
listen,
period,
Scott, hold on. We have to, get some facts out there. There are some men that can breastfeed now. It is a thing. So, but go ahead. I mean, we just, you and I just don't have those kind of genes. We don't have that kind of talent to
yes.
breastfeed a woman or a man. But there are men that can do that now. But go ahead.
Well, at the beginning, it was so cute because Grace, she couldn't speak, and it's simply because speech with Down syndrome kids is delayed. So Cindy took her to a class, and she learned how to sign. So like when she wanted Mama's milk, she would sign the sign for more is this. So she would say more, and then she would squeeze the teats, more milk. Oh, it was the cutest thing. As she developed, she was special. She knew the Lord like nobody I've ever known. She had a trust in God that was fantastic. And I'll share a quick sidebar on that in a minute, but she
Yeah.
was extremely high functioning. I think, of course, God made her that way, but we had also never vaccinated her with anything. So we were awake to the vaccination agenda, but we didn't realize, we thought it was only related to vaccines. We didn't realize it was a whole medical industrial complex agenda. So we never vaccinated Grace, so she was not hindered by any of those um, um, chemicals in the vaccines that are designed to dumb us down, give us autism, and all the repercussions, even death. Then lastly, my wife did a great job homeschooling Grace, and ultimately she played violin, she rode horse, she went deer hunting with me. I taught her how to drive. There's nothing she didn't do, and on top of that, she had a great sense of humor. She was naturally funny. Just to give you a perspective of how she trusted, we lost our son October 9th of 2018 to suicide, and
Oh,
October
I didn't
10th,
know
the
that.
day after, Grace and I were riding in my truck, and I'm pretty upset and shooken up. And I said to Grace, God's got this, right? And I didn't know God had it. I was just trying to comfort my daughter, and she ended up comforting me. She said, "I know, Dad." Um, so that was Grace. And when we get to her hospital stay, just a quick version of her hospital stay. You can look back at the prior program Rob and I did. I've been on about 900 shows. Everyone that's been recorded is linked on Grace's website, Our Amazing Grace, not Our Amazing Grace. And then you can look up those if you want to hear longer versions of the story. But in short, I was with Grace from October. This is 2021. I was with her from October 6th until the 10th. I was taken out by an armed guard on the 10th. We hired an attorney to get my daughter Jessica. Cindy was sick at the time, so Jessica became the replacement advocate after 47 hours without advocacy. The push was for the ventilator. The ventilator was like hitting 777s on the slot machine for the hospital. They received a $39,000 bonus for the ventilator. The average payout for a ventilator stay was about $300,000. And so when we were consistently denying their request, they would always frame it that, well, we'd like to have your pre-authorization because these type of things tend to happen in the middle of the night when we can't get a hold of the family. We kept saying no. The morning of Grace's last day, we said no for the 5th time. And that set in motion a series of events to kill Grace. And while we were on the phone with the doctor that morning, telling him no to the ventilator request for the 5th time, he increased the dose of Precedex to the maximum allowable dose. Precedex is a sedation med that's only supposed to be used for no more than 24 hours. They had already had Grace on it for 4 full days at this time. Then he switched gears and said, we should get Grace out of bed, work on nutrition. Unbeknownst to us at that time, he had already strapped Grace down to the bed and made her defecate in the bed.
Wow.
When we have one of the first lawsuits in the country to expose this evil, and when you overlay our contemporaneous notes with the phone records and the medical records, you see that as soon as he hung up the phone with Cindy and I, he put an illegal do not resuscitate order on Grace's chart. And so then they combined
Hold on, Scott. Just for people listening, this is the doctor doing all these orders without your consent, of course.
That's correct.
Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
It's sickening, and it isn't even without consent. It's worse than without consent, because the concept of informed consent means the doctor informed you and then you denied consent. So this would presume he informed us. So there was no consent at all. They just did it.
Do you believe that they tried to inform Grace and she was probably so far out of it that she didn't even know what the heck was going on, and she just maybe said yes, or they just said she said yes and just went with that?
If that happened, I would have already expected that would have come out in the lawsuit, because we're well into discovery and they've never used that as a defense. They knew we had medical power of attorney, and our daughter Jessica was also in the room. So no, I don't think that. I was expecting that may have come up as an excuse, but it has not come up. So no, I don't think that.
Wow.
But ultimately they combined those meds, and now when it came time to revive Grace, no medical staff would even come in the room. Jessica called Cindy and I at 7:18 p.m. after they had combined these meds. Nobody knows this is even happening in our family. They combine them. Grace is getting cold. Jessica's begging nurses to come in. She gets Cindy and I on a FaceTime call at 7:18 p.m. We start screaming. The nursing staff is all outside the door with a guard. And we scream, save our daughter. And they won't even come in the room. They holler back, she's DNR. That's when we learned, oh my gosh, what is, she's got a do not resuscitate order. So we scream back, she's not DNR, save our daughter, but they wouldn't do it. And we watched her die on that call. Ultimately, what happened, Rob, is that started a process. And
but you couldn't get into that hospital because they pretty much banned you from going in there, correct?
Well, they did. I mean, they took me out by an armed guard on the 10th. And but I wouldn't have, I at this point we were still trusting. So the process, so I told you Jessica called us at 7:18. 6:15 is when they gave her the dose of morphine to kill her. At 6:43, the doctor called Cindy and I and said again, Grace had such a good day, I just gave her morphine. So then we said, well, what's the reason you gave her morphine? And he said, well, to slow her breathing down, she's breathing too fast. Like, we didn't realize the goal was to slow her breathing down to 0. because you're trusting the white coat. We're programmed to trust this white coat.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not programmed anymore, but that's why, I've become so outspoken, Rob. Like I said, I've been on 900 programs. What I do with my time is I'm on programs. I do an awful lot of research. I have about 3,500 hours of research into this um, uh, medical murder at this point. And then it's gone way beyond medical murder. And then I spend the balance of the time with the attorneys on the lawsuit. So I'm working about 90 hours a week on this. It's exhaustive. I'm thank God I'm able to do it. He woke me up to what's going on, and my sense is this is my responsibility to share with anybody with ears to hear. I want to share what's going on because I don't even want my worst enemy to have their best buddy gone. Grace is my best buddy, and you don't want your best buddy out of your life. So
listen, I've met many Down syndrome adults, children, and all the ones that I've met, they're a joy to be around. They're always happy. They never seem like they're doing anything malicious, at least the ones that I've met. And they're good kids. They're good people in general, adults too.
Yeah.
And it's just really sad to hear this story in general. And for somebody like me that has a family member that has a disability similar to Grace, not exactly the same, but regardless of that, it's really disgusting that this healthcare system is really it's like I said, you don't trust the white coat. Me personally, and I'll shut up and end my piece with this. In 2020, I trusted the white coat, and before that, I trusted the white coat. 2021, the medical gaslighting I received, and many other people I know that received, the laughing in the face, the push towards benzodiazepines, the push towards antidepressant drugs is really mentally sick. The push to put you on pills in general. We just talked about something off air about an issue I just dealt with the medical system, Scott. And they just want to put you on pills. It's all about putting you on pills, on ventilators, on remdesivir, on this, on that. It's nothing about trying to really find out the root of the problem and solve it, if possible, naturally, which is what God wanted us to do. Go ahead, Scott.
That's spot on. So I'm going to dive into my first slide.
Yeah, let's get that back up there.
And then, that kind of introduces the rest of the show.
And I just want to, inform people that are listening or watching this, whatever you may be doing. Scott is going to put up a slideshow. Some people that have been watching this on one of the podcasting sites may have saw that while me and Scott were going back and forth earlier. It is back up there now. We do hope people listening on the radio or in audio in general do go to Rumble or YouTube and look at the slides because it is going to be a good show for people that are watching this. But go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Yeah, I did present this slideshow on Rumble after I did it. I did it as a monocast on Rumble. So you can look on my deprogramming tab. Then you can pull these slides off if you want. It's a PowerPoint slide presentation. What it is, how this came about, Rob, is in I think it was in last October. Yeah, it was last October. I finished up a 7-part series that was titled Medical Murder is the #1 cause of death in the United States by design. So the 7 parts were who, what, where, why, how, when, and now what. So it was exhaustive. It took about 1,000 hours to put that together. And so then what I did is I took the highlight reel of that, all of that, and I put it into one slideshow so that, people can at least get a taste for what I'm talking about, that this is real stuff. And if you want to do a deep dive, you can go to that 7-part series. It's all posted on my deprogramming channel.
Can I interject, Scott, with 2 quick questions? Because, I have trauma in my life. You obviously do have a lot of trauma in the past in your life. With that said, putting this slideshow, going on these programs and telling Grace's story, do you feel like that's helped you get past some of the trauma that you've had in your life? Or do you feel like telling these stories kind of brings it back in?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would tell you that God gave me the ability to segregate the story when I'm on programs, um, which is a gift. I've only broken down 2 or 3 times telling the story. So I'm thankful that he gave me that ability, because people want to hear the story, they need to hear the story, and
Right.
if I break down, I can't tell the story. So it has, so then the second part is, has that helped me personally? It's hard to judge that. Um,
And I asked that because obviously Grace's story is a real tragedy, but then
right,
obviously a couple years before that, you had your son.
right,
So it's almost
right,
like a double whammy, right?
right.
One after the other.
I see that Travis's death is actually in the same vein as Grace's, because there is an agenda when people are depressed to get them on meds, and then those meds ultimately are designed to kill the person. And the meds combination that they gave Travis, 30 days to the day, they were content indicated meds, and 30 days to the day he killed himself when they gave him that med that he should have never gotten.
Were these antidepressants, benzodiazepines, both, if you want to say,
My
if you
wife,
don't?
yeah, my wife would have to speak to that. She did a deep dive, because when there's a suicide, there's an autopsy, and so she really dug into it. I can't
Okay.
answer that.
Fair enough. I just asked that too because again, with the jab injury that I have, that again, as I just stated, that was the push to put you on
Yep.
the antidepressants. You have anxiety, you are depressed. Everything that you're speaking about with the jab is a total sham. It's fake. You're just dreaming of it. And the list goes on and on with the medical gaslighting. And it's almost like they want you to, you're already injured, and they want you to just give up on life and just eventually, as you just said with Travis, just call it quits.
Yep.
Get out of the system. That's just the way I believe now. I'm sorry. And like I said, the white coat, as you stated, I stated, I don't trust any of them. Everybody's a grain of salt. There are, again, that's a generalization. There are a few, good white coats out there, but you have to really do a deep dive as you've done in healthcare and be careful what they say to you. Go ahead, Scott, if
Well,
you want to.
that's right on. Okay, well, you can see
Yeah.
the title slide says eugenics today, hospitals and care facilities are federally mandated killing fields. So that's not hyperbole. I am going to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt. This is, is by law. I have learned that Satan is a legalist, and the T's have been crossed, the I's dotted. Satan is ultimately behind this agenda, this whole population reduction agenda,
Right.
the climate agenda. It breeds on each other. So they have convinced the population in general that we don't have enough resources on the planet. There's too many people. So these are big lies that the globalists have bought into. They're acting on those lies, and so consequently, um, they have legalized literally murder. So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to show you just a couple of quick pictures of Grace next. Did it move? I just want to make sure it's working.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Okay,
fine.
so
You're good.
um, a lot of people ask what was my hair color before we hired the legal team, and you can see what it is. Uh,
Right.
the
Wow. Okay.
the picture on the right is my favorite. This is the day I stopped killing dandelions in our lawn because Grace brought that bouquet in, and we have a 7-acre lawn,
Right.
Rob, and so this process of killing dandelions was exhaustive. But then I realized, oh my gosh, these are a beautiful flower, and
Yeah.
so I just love that picture of her. That separate website, graceshara.com, that is for legal updates. So the people who want to follow our lawsuit, we have a special website just for that, to sign up to follow the lawsuit. All right, so what we're going to do is find out who's behind the curtain. And I already told you the real who behind the curtain is Satan. And
Yeah.
then, through an elaborate scheme with the occultists, the Freemasons, the Jesuits, and then ultimately those occultist organizations end up controlling big pharma, big corporations, and then big pharma, big corporations control all the governments. So the governments are way down on the list. We've been programmed to believe that, well, we should be, we're not doing our civic duty if we don't participate in government, we don't vote. It's all a lie. It's all a lie to get us thinking we have a choice. It's just an illusion. It's all an illusion.
Well, it's like wrestling, it's like football, and you got two teams or two people going against each other. And again, they're all ruled by the powers that be. And you and I and the rest of the people that are listening to this are not in that powers that be.
That's correct. We're not in that powers that be. And so I see that as my main responsibility now that I'm awake to that reality, is to show anybody with ears to hear and eyes to see, to show them, okay, this is all an illusion. So anyway, we're going to dive into that a bit. I'm going to give a taste of that illusion towards the end, and that will bait you and the audience to bring me back to talk about that exclusively, because it's a big topic. All right. So the medical records, I picked this record. This is written by the COVID expert. You can see his name was Dr. Anthony Zimet. He's the COVID expert at St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Appleton, Wisconsin, where Grace was murdered. This is his first day report. Grace's first day in the hospital was October 7th. You can see that he referenced that she has Down syndrome. He actually referenced she had Down syndrome 4 times in one report. That we're Christian, we're following the frontline doctors' misinformation campaign. And then his last line of the report says, unfortunately, I think the patient probably would not be here if she had been fully vaccinated. So I'm pointing this out because they are brazen with their biases. And if you have the opportunity to get the medical records, you'll see this with your own eyes. This is just a snapshot. The whole medical record is full of this crap. But they had a bias, the Down syndrome bias, the Christian bias, not following the allopathic medicine bias, and of course the bias towards the unvaccinated. I filed a complaint with the state licensing board against the doctor who murdered Grace. To my shock, they came back and said, you can see it, Chapter 154 of the Wisconsin statutes, that's the DNR statute, does not apply to physicians operating in a hospital non-emergency room setting such as the one in question. So that's telling you a doctor can put an illegal do not resuscitate order on anybody he wants at any time. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. This is insanity. But this is why I like to show documents, Rob. So then it's just not me as a dad talking. I mean, this is literally what they wrote back. You can see the lady who wrote it back, her phone number, this is real stuff. All right. So then, how did we get here? What's the legal authority for all of this? And I started digging in 1968. I went to kindergarten, and I had a vivid memory from kindergarten where the weekly reader said, if you have more than 2 children, it's irresponsible. And if your parents have an electric can opener, that's wrong because it's using resources of the planet that we don't have enough of. So I was digging for this article, and I found some other things in the weekly reader where they're programming 5-year-olds. You think about this, the programming, it's like, wow, it's hard to grasp. Well, in that process, I stumbled across this document, the 1967 Plan to Depopulate the United States. And you can see I highlighted a few things here. Encourage increased homosexuality, fertility control agents in the water supply. If you've done any studying of fluoride in the water system and its impact on sperm counts, you can see, I mean, this is an all-out attack on our population because they believe we have too many people on the planet. Payments to encourage abortion, abortion and sterilization on demand, obvious. This is before Roe versus Wade. Now we have 75,000 murders a month, 75,000 murders a month of babies in the womb. Okay, so you can see this was already set up way back. So what we're seeing now should be no surprise. I mean, everything is coming unglued. We're seeing evil like crazy. Well, they've been laying the groundwork for this way before 67. This was just the first public document that I found.
And these are government doctors saying this, Scott?
Well, no, this was from, if you look at the at the note on the side, the Rockefeller Commission supported this study, and ultimately the government never does any of this direct, right? They can't. If they did it direct, it's illegal for them to do it direct. So they always do it through sponsoring organizations. So the Catholic Church is in on this. There's all kinds of them. They end up with their nonprofit status, and then they can fund these ideas that the government wants to have happen, but then the government isn't funding them directly. Does that answer your question, Rob?
Yeah.
All right. This next one, we're going to try this out. So this is a video, and what this video is, Rob, is, are you familiar with the idea of projecting your sin? When you get caught in a sin and then you start switching, well, you do this, so that's projecting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so our country does this. Our country points the finger at everybody else. Okay, this clip is really an example. So if you just watch this clip, I really gave you too much information ahead of time, but I want you to watch this clip and watch for what they're saying. And then we're going to come back and analyze the clip. So what I'm going to do, Rob, is I'm going to put my microphone by my speaker so that this will, you can hear the audio. So we'll give this a try. It's worked on other programs. Let's see if it works.
So Canada has a big assisted suicide program for all kinds of Canadians, right?
Yeah, it's pretty shocking, Chris. Canada is set to expand its assisted suicide program in 2024 to include the mentally ill. The program is only 7 years old, but the latest data shows the number of deaths under the medical assistance in dying program rises every year. Officials in Canada say they've been prudent and thought the expansion through, but one medical expert tells Reuters that most mental illnesses aren't even fully understood, so they shouldn't be eligible. Obviously, this is a tough topic, one that can get pretty heated. It's pretty dark. I think, Jason, probably something you and I can agree on is I don't want any doctor or any government telling me what I can or can't do with my body.
I think that there's a fundamental problem with the Canadian health system, which is that when socialized medicine doesn't work. This is, where they have long waiting lists, they have outdated drugs, they have equipment that's, substandard. There's so many problems with the Canadian system that for them, it's like, let's move quickly and, get rid of these mentally ill people. And it also raises a question, what if you are a mentally ill person that you can't really make that decision? Is someone else going to make the decision for you?
Mentally ill people, homeless people, people living in poverty.
Mm-hmm.
How about, people with Down syndrome and then gypsies or something,
You can't have euthanasia as an option for having poor, safety net systems and providing for your society. It's just cruel. It's inhumane. And it's quite frankly, it's gross. And Canada's not the only country in the world that allows for this, but they are exceptional in a few instances where they do contrast with other countries. They don't have a commission to look into wrongful deaths. Somebody who might have gone in there for a minor injury and then couldn't get the treatment that they needed. There was a case that I read about of a man who complained of hearing loss, and they put him down. And there's no commission, so the family members are lost. Also, doctors can basically suggest that you should be put to death. In most other countries, that's not the case. Nurses can provide euthanasia, and you're not required to exhaust all the other treatment options. So if you're at the end of the line, you can just choose to die rather than to choose other treatments that might be successful.
Well, maybe the Canadian medical system's long waiting list will be the salvation, and people will have a chance to change their minds.
I think, what's next is it then, the baby boomer population, the aging, the elderly that are suddenly a burden on society. When do they become the next target of something like this?
It's the stuff of science fiction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Rob, first of all, did that come through okay?
Yeah, it came through perfect. Unfortunately, it's true. That's the problem.
My screen just froze up. So what I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I
do,
see that.
I gotta get out of this and come back in. I've had this happen before.
Sure thing.
So that's okay. We'll come back in. But all right.
Yeah,
So
well,
now what I'm accusing them of is projecting the sin of the United States onto the Canadian made system. All right.
mhm.
Okay. Let's see. Give me just a minute, Rob. I just want to make sure I get the.
Did you want me to go off the screen? So give
No,
you some
I should be
privacy?
able to,
Okay,
no, it's okay. I just want to make sure I've got. Yeah, okay, I've got it back. All right.
okay, very good.
So what they're doing, projecting their sin onto the Canadian MAID program, medical assistance in dying. Okay, so we have a number of points that they made that, you know, when an unsuspecting person who is not awake would listen to that broadcast and think, "Boy, wow, this is, yeah, thank God we live in the United States where we don't have that problem," right? Okay, well, here's the wake-up call. All right, so now did this show up on your screen?
Yes, yes.
All right, so I'm going to show you what we have in the United States. We're way worse. In fact, we started the medical assistance in dying program on March 23rd of 2010. And that's when Obamacare was passed. It was started before that because Ezekiel Emanuel was the chief architect of Obamacare. And in 1996, he already said non-contributing members of society don't deserve medical care. Well, the non-contributing members of society are those on Medicare and Medicaid. Even before that, we had what the, so, you know, I'm definitely not throwing Obama under the bus because they're all in on it. I can prove it. November 14th of 1986, what conservatives would say is the best president in their lifetime, Ronald Reagan, passed the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act that gave no downstream liability for all these vaccine injuries. You got to be kidding me. Who gets, you know, I own a business. Can you imagine not having consequences to your choices? I mean, you screw up, you got to pay, right? Okay, but that's what he did. So that law has killed and maimed more people than any other law ever passed other than Roe versus Wade. Okay, so now when you look at Obamacare, it says specifically the federal government, this is section 1553, may not subject an individual or institutional healthcare entity to discrimination on the basis that that entity does not provide any healthcare item or service furnished for the purpose of causing or the purpose of assisting in causing the death of any individual, such as by assisted suicide, euthanasia, or mercy killing. So that's our law.
Yeah.
Obamacare legalized assisted suicide, euthanasia, and mercy killing. Then they mentioned about, you know, in Canada, then, you know, even the nurses can do assisted suicide. Well, here we go. In June of 23, doctors won't help patients kill themselves. So state enlist nurses. This was in the state of Hawaii. The governor said, hey, we don't have enough doctors killing people. We got to have nurses. Then they also said, well, you know, praise God, we have a commission, right? We have a commission. Well, people don't know, what does that mean, a commission? It's called the Joint Commission. And what the Joint Commission is, it's supposed to be an organization that certifies hospitals that they're safe. Okay, so what I learned through the Joint Commission process, we filed a claim with the Joint Commission because of Grace's murder. And they send a form letter back. And this was a campaign, a whole bunch of people sent this. They all got the same form letter back. It's all a joke. They're all in on it. And we were first to the punch. The United States was first to the punch. All right, so now next slide. How did they pull this off? This will shock most people if you're not aware of it. In 1948, there was a law called the Smith-Mundt Act that was passed that prevented the United States from using propaganda other than against other countries to protect the United States. Well, that law was repealed in 2012. So then the United States can use propaganda against its own citizens. And boy, did they ever. When you look at what happened during COVID, we all heard this idea of safe and effective, right? With the jab. Okay, so that was wrong. That was a lie, but it was legal, Rob. It was legal because of the repeal of the Smith-Mundt Act. They could legally use propaganda against their own citizens. And so this propaganda, I mean, this will shock people, but this was designed to literally kill us. This whole jab was designed to kill us. And it's not a joke. When you look at what is known about this jab already, on January 8th of 2021 was a False Claims Act lawsuit by Brooke Jackson. I met Brooke a couple months ago. She filed a False Claims Act lawsuit against Pfizer. She worked for Pfizer. She realized that they're not doing any testing. And
so she was able to, because there's a law that says if you work for a contractor and they're defrauding the United States government, you can get whistleblower protection. So she files this False Claims Act against Pfizer. Pfizer produces a contract that said this was never a vaccine. We have a contract, here it is, an OTA, an other authority agreement with the DOD, the Department of Defense, that says we didn't have to do any testing because this was not a vaccine. So now what happens, normally the government then comes in and stands behind their whistleblower to support the whistleblower. In this case, the government came in behind Pfizer, and you'll see my underlying portion here. This is the government's statement behind Pfizer. They filed on October 4th of 22. They called it a statement of interest supporting the dismissal of the amended complaint. Pfizer wanted to dismiss the complaint. The government came in behind Pfizer and said, in short, the complaint does not plead factual content to support a conclusion that compliance with the clinical trial protocol or regulations was necessary under the contract between Pfizer and the Army. So here, the United States government is admitting there was no testing required with this contract between Pfizer and the Army. Do you see the smoking gun here? It's like, what? That case has gone all the way to May 1st of 24. I'm very familiar with the case. I've been studying the case. It also happens to be one of the lead attorneys on this case is also the lead attorney on Grace's case. So I talk with him regularly. And so on May 1st, they had a hearing. It was called a hearing motion to intervene and dismiss. Again, the government wanted the case dismissed. What was the reason? It contradicts public health policy. Think it through. The public health policy is vaccinate, vaccinate, vaccinate. And if people got wind of this, if this got out into the public, it would kill the whole vaccination agenda policy of the United States government, which all designed to kill us. The entire vaccine policy, not just the COVID jab, all the vaccines were designed to do exactly what is happening now, which is kill us. All right. So how do they get the doctors and facilities to kill?
I do have to say this, otherwise we're going to get censored, Scott, if I don't say this, whether we believe it or not. The CDC does say that the vaccines are safe and effective. I have to say it. The vaccine is safe and effective. Get your 25th booster shot. Do what you got to do. But we do have to say that the COVID vaccine is safe and effective, and go out and get your booster. Anyways, go ahead, Scott.
The good news is I don't have to say that. So how do they get the doctors and
from a guy that's injured, by the way, saying that, but that's okay. It is safe and effective. Get the vaccine. Go ahead.
So how do they pull this off? Well, there's multiple ways, but the main way they pulled this off is on July 30th of 1965, President Johnson passed the Medicare and Medicaid law. Right. And this is the most evil law that's ever been passed to facilitate this agenda. So what happens with this law is we ended up with today, there's 135 million Americans, 1/3 of the population plus is on Medicare and Medicaid. The cost to maintain these systems with the related Social Security payments is approaching $4 trillion, almost 50 or over 50% of the annual federal budget. So they have convinced the population that this is too expensive. We can write blank checks to Ukraine and Israel, but we can't take care of our people. It's too expensive. We need to hasten the deaths of these people to control the cost. That's how they've done it. Okay, so keep that thought process in mind as I drill this down. So then what happens next is CMS, which is the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services, they're in charge of the Medicare and Medicaid program. And they end up controlling all healthcare in the United States by the idea of standards of care. They introduced standards of care in the early 80s. Standards of care are designed to kill us. Simple example, you were mentioning off air about the statin. I was diagnosed with heart disease 6 years ago. That's how I know so much about the statin. So when I was diagnosed with heart disease, they told me, big lie, your cholesterol is over 300. That's the cause of your heart disease. Big lie. I started studying heart disease. I did my own blood chemistry, realized it has high cholesterol isn't even in the top 10 causes of heart disease. So then I dug into this more, and I ended up, after my research, I came in, I said, I'm not going on the statin. And the nurse, there was a decent nurse who pulled me aside and said, Scott, you have to go on the statin. I said, what are you talking about? I don't have to do anything. And she said, you don't understand. Our Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement rates are based on the percentage, what percentage of our patient population follows the standard of care. I said, well, I'm not on Medicare or Medicaid. She said, doesn't matter. It's based on our entire patient population. And if there's enough people like you who won't follow the standard of care that's coming down from CMS, we have to fire you from our patient base, because we've got to get our percentages up so our reimbursement rates through CMS are high enough to sustain our practice. This is not a joke. This is how, remember I told you earlier, the government can't do this directly. They have to do it indirectly. Okay.
Yeah.
So now we're going to watch a clip to prove this. The clip is Fema Vima. She's the administration. She's the administrator. She's the head of CMS. She's going to explain in this clip how the government pulls this off. All right. You ready to go?
Yeah, go ahead. And this is under Trump or Biden. Well, it doesn't matter, I guess.
It's under both. This has been since this got started in 1965. They're all in on this, Rob.
Yeah, I know. Believe me, I'm not a Trump person. But
Yeah.
anyway, and I'm definitely not a Biden.
All right, so here we go.
Yeah.
How many nursing homes are under federal care, or does the federal government own? Are there any? I know they're state and they're private, but does the federal government have direct control? Are there any federal nursing home facilities?
Well, the VA has some nursing homes, but in terms of my agency, the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services, we set the federal guidelines of safety and quality. And then we work with the states to inspect these nursing homes to make sure they're adhering to those guidelines. But ultimately, states license these facilities. What the federal government can do if a nursing home isn't compliant is we can withhold their reimbursement from Medicare or Medicaid.
Okay, got that? So she's talking about nursing homes, but you get the idea. It's just how they can, that's how they're controlling the entire system. This is sick stuff. So we have got this idea. We trust the way code, the standard of care. So just a quick.
And they say it right out in the open, Scott. You just need to have a critical thinking skills to put 2 and 2 together to equal 4.
That's exactly right. Satan has to follow that rule. It's in Genesis 18:17. So, Satan is bound to follow the rule that he's got to let us know ahead of time, but we've got to have our critical thinking on. Yes. So, here's an example. He let us know these standards of care are designed to kill us. And so the standard of care, just think about the standard of care for cancer. Everybody knows if I get cancer, okay, well, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Well, I get it. Well, the doctor is going to recommend chemo. I guess I'm going to have to do chemo. Well, the doctor will never tell you that chemo has a 97.9% kill rate. All you care about is, does my insurance pay for it? Because that's how deep the programming is. Okay. This is sick stuff. It's evil beyond. All right, next is we have this concept of informed consent. So we think we go into a medical facility and they're bound to inform us based on the informed consent rules. And I'm here to tell you that's dead. There was an act passed in 2016 called the Cures Act, not the CARES Act, the Cures Act, that eliminated informed consent. The clip in the middle was from the first motions to dismiss in Grace's lawsuit, where the attorney laid out that, hey, we can't hold these doctors to the standard of this lawsuit, otherwise they won't practice in Wisconsin. He's using this as his argument to the judge to throw the case out. But here's the clincher. Read right on the bottom, Rob. We asked the district attorney to file a criminal charge against the doctor. And this is what the district attorney's office wrote back. A doctor is not required to administer treatment she or he believes is not medically effective. This includes authorizing a DNR. The parties clearly had a dispute about how Dr. Shokar should treat Grace. Dr. Shokar did not abide by the wishes of the family. However, there's no law in Wisconsin that requires him to do so. So don't think this is unique to Wisconsin. So I'm just telling you bluntly, they're going to do whatever they want unless you get this and you're prepared for a hospital stay. You've got your medical directives document, your power of attorney document, but mainly an advocate who is awake, that has a strong personality, that needs to be with you to stop the behavior that they're going to attempt to put on you. How do they do this? I kind of explained this earlier. The love of money has the ability to pull this off. So already on April 6th, we got the precursor to the gold being eliminated. In the 70s. We went off the gold standard. Now we have a fiat currency. So there's never going to be a balanced budget again. The goal is to use the fiat money to buy everybody off to be able to accomplish this agenda. God warned us that this was going to happen. He prophesied in Revelation 18:23, for your merchants were the most important people of the earth. I think he's talking about the United States here, Mystery Babylon, because with your pharmakia, your sorcery, they deceived all nations. So no surprise what we're seeing. I'm in the medical murder lane. The medical murder lane is exactly how God prophesied this is going to happen. Just to give you a perspective of how deep this is, Rob, they are so brazen. The rule of law is dead in our country. People are we got to pass more laws. We got to legislate. No, you're not going to legislate out of this. That's impossible. The reason you're not is because they're unilaterally implementing the equivalent of law without our permission. Here's an example. The first paragraph on this document says parents who have proxy access to medical information of a child age 0 to 11 years will automatically have that access removed from the system when the patient turns age 12. This is due to legal guidelines in place for proxy access to teens' medical information. So once the son or daughter turns 12, the parents have no longer have access to the medical records of the kid. The kid now can make his own medical decision. That's insanity.
And this is around the country because of Obamacare.
Well, it's not really Obamacare. It's because of this agenda is way bigger than Obamacare. Obamacare is just one of the many steps in this process. So don't look at Obamacare caused this. It was a step in the process. The cause of this is the satanic population reduction agenda. And so if we can get these kids in on this, if we can sterilize the dads, we can get the kids in on this, where the kids can now make their own decisions. So the kids can euthanize themselves. They can get their own jobs. They can do it. Yep. They can do transgender, everything. Okay. So you can see that this is an all court press of the evil agenda, the depopulation, the climate control agenda. That's what's going on. This is at the ground level. So I want to just share this brief slide to give people kind of a glimpse, because this is how deceptive Satan is. And this I'm transitioning, Rob, into the next time I'm going to be on. And because what Satan has done magically is give us this idea. And I said earlier, it's an illusion. We have an illusion of choice. And the illusion of choice is evil versus less evil. Evil versus less evil. So I'm being blunt. Vaccines are evil. What is going on, and you'll hear this over and over if you start paying attention, and it's what's on the shirt. Where there is risk, there must be choice. So that's the less evil. So that sounds right, correct? Where there's risk, there must be choice. Okay, well, what is God's view of vaccines? God made our body fearfully and wonderfully made. Viruses are a psyop. So this whole thing is a lie. The virus boogeyman gets us fear, so then the fear motivates us to take a jab. Okay, that's what's going on here. That's all in Satan's economy, not God's economy. So this idea that we need safe vaccines, that is less evil. Evil is mandates. Less evil is safe vaccines. So I'm kind of giving you an idea that, okay, this agenda of Satan is pretty tricky. And then you think about the people who are both working, they want to send their kids to the public school system. The public school system says to participate, you need 80 jabs. So then they're just zombies. They just go along with whatever the public fool system says. So then these people, do they really have a choice? Well, no, they're so programmed, they can't even objectively have a choice anymore. And then they think, well, we're going to have safe vaccines. So even though these old vaccines, they weren't safe, we're going to have vaccines that are safe coming up. Well, there's no intention to have safe vaccines. It's all part of the virus vaccine psyop. All right, I'm getting close to closing up here, Rob. I got one more video, but I want to introduce that video.
Sure.
So I told you about the medical murder series. Okay, that took me about 1,000 hours. Well, then I transitioned to the Matrix Revealed series. That took about 500 hours. There's a 4-part recording on Rumble on this. And so I don't have any big series coming up, but this is so big because what I stumbled across is people are believing that by waking up it's called being red pilled. You've heard of that term, right?
Yeah, of course.
So you're in the blue pill. Okay, you're a zombie. Well, now I'm awake. I'm got the red pill. I'm awake. Well, I'm telling you, the red pill is not awake. The red pill is the less evil satanic agenda. It gets you believing that you've got this now. And what God warned about in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 10 through 12, he said, they perish because they refuse to love the truth and so be saved. For this reason, God sends them a powerful delusion so that they will believe the lie, and so that all will be condemned who have not believed the truth but delighted in wickedness. The red pill is a powerful delusion. And you can see the title of my Matrix Revealed series says, The Plan to Take Down the Satanic Cabal. So the Great Reset is the Satanic Cabal, right? The plan to take down the Satanic Cabal was written by the Satanic Cabal. That's the Great Awakening. How do I know this? The people promoting all these solutions to this evil that is being exposed, they're not promoting the thing that we know needs to happen first. We have to acknowledge that we got this way by rejecting God. So consequently, they're not preaching repentance. That's how I know it's from Satan. And I've got a video to close things out that I put together as an introduction to the Matrix Revealed series, because it's a lot. The Matrix Revealed is a mind blower, but I did a 5-minute introductory explainer video. So if people are inclined to go further, this explainer video will get it. So I'm going to play that and then we can wrap up, Rob. You ready to go?
Yeah, please.
Okay, here we go. It's 5 minutes long.
Yeah.
Please come, sit. I imagine that right now you're feeling a bit like Alice tumbling down the rabbit hole. I can see it in your eyes. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he's expecting to wake up. Ironically, this is not far from the truth. Do you believe in God, Neo?
No.
Why not?
Because I don't like the idea that I'm not in control of my life.
I know exactly what you mean. Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know, you can't explain. You were programmed to believe that by taking the red pill, you would escape the matrix. It is the sense that you have been lied to that has brought you to me. I want to share with you how to truly escape. You've always known that God exists because he put that knowledge into each of us within our souls. We cannot function as we should without loving God and obeying his commands. Life is empty without him, and apart from him, we can do nothing. You knew God existed when you were that scared little boy, calling out to him for comfort. You recognized his existence when you escaped that car accident unscathed. You saw God in the eyes of your newborn baby. You've always known. The problem is, you've never given your life to him, Neo. Everything you've done has been about you, your family, your friends. It's never been about fulfilling your purpose on earth. Do you know what I'm talking about?
God?
Yes, God is everywhere. He is all around us. Even now, in this very room, you can see him when you look out your window or when you take a walk in the woods. You can feel him when you go to work, when you lose a loved one. He is always there. Satan has designed the matrix of the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
You've been lied to your entire life. The American dream, patriotism, the Constitution, money, wars, schools, government, church, spiritualism, all part of Satan's elaborate worldly schemes to lead you away from God. You are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell, taste, or touch. A prison for your mind and soul. Unfortunately, many people don't want the truth. They'll believe they have the power within themselves to right the world, to cure disease, to become enlightened. They're all misled, pursuing knowledge, further enslaving them. They are blind to Satan's dual nature, having men pursue both knowledge and security and comfort. You see, Satan lures men with knowledge, and when that trap leads to chaos, he becomes the angel of light, tempting with safety, security, and comfort. God has only wanted one thing since the beginning, Neo, to love you. Now you have a choice. Time is urgent. This is your last chance. After this, you can't say you were never told. You take the blue pill, and the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe, and live a life of emptiness as you chase worldly pleasures and accolades. You take the red pill and believe you have the truth, that even without God, you believe you're enlightened and can attain glory through your own works. Or you take the white pill. This is the hardest pill to swallow because it is the end of your selfish pursuits. It means you come to the place of repentance for straying from God, not following his commands, not loving him. You face yourself, finally. You acknowledge that your life means nothing without the creator of the universe in your life. The white pill is the most difficult, but it is also the most rewarding. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more. Will you follow him?
All right, I have a second to last slide. So in case do you have a question on the video, Rob? Well, you're muted.
Yeah, I muted, just in case.
Yeah, it was good.
No, I actually watched that on your Rumble before.
You did.
I think it was in your Substack or something like that.
Yeah, when we announced it, I put it in Substack.
Yeah,
well, that's
right.
good. Well, then you're familiar with it. All right.
Right.
So in case you didn't get the website name, ouramazinggrace.net. This is from the homepage. You can subscribe to our newsletter. We have our store just opened got some cool shirts. It's a way to support us. We make $5 a shirt. And the Matrix Revealed series is linked there. We did a documentary in May of 23 called Breaking the Oath. And that's on everything's on the website. So you can link to everything there. And then last is a picture of our family. Jessica on my right. This is on July 14th of 23, the day after our first victory in court, where the judge dismissed the motions to dismiss. The attorneys made me wear a monkey suit, and my wife is on my left, and then of course my best buddy, and they messed with the wrong girl, and because of her is the reason I'm here. So that's my story, Rob, and I am sticking to it.
Well, listen, it was very good as far as what you gave as far as information to people listening. Again, ouramazinggrace.net. We've said it throughout the conversation. GraceSchara.com for the updates as far as the case goes. Again, Grace Schara, it's SCHARA. ARA. So definitely check that out. And then the Rumble show, excuse me, is Deprogramming with Grace's Dad. Again, Deprogramming with Grace's Dad. For some reason, I lost my voice a little bit. Anyways, regardless for that, you know, we got to have you on again, Scott, to talk about the Matrix and all that and go a little deeper than just that video led up to. And
Yeah,
I think
I do have a presentation on that. So I mean, next time we can go through that.
yeah, and I think that'll be beneficial, not just for myself, but obviously everybody that's watching or listening to this in general. But I do hope people go again to GraceSchara.com and then ouramazinggrace.net and then Deprogramming with Grace's Dad on Rumble. Definitely subscribe, like, and share to that. And we look forward to having you on again, Scott. And thanks so much.
Well, God bless you, Rob. Thanks for having
God
me.
bless you too. And thanks so much for doing what you're doing.